It's been very strange doing this, like working on material that you did 45, 50 years ago. I've had to give a lot of thought to this, so it's an opportunity to like revisit the material because I like playing those songs. You know, each time I came back to it, it was because I felt I could do something with it. I feel it's an expressive. They're expressive pieces of music. We were like not your usual pop band. The Syrinx, like we listened all the time. We were listening to world music. It was hard to get them then, world music recordings. And like Doug and Alan particularly, they would be just like jamming all the time. And playing, learning different instruments and so forth. So it was just really part of our culture. I was giving a course in electronic music in the Royal Conservatory of Music. You know, this was the first class that had ever been given to people who weren't academics, right? They just walked in off the street and said, I want to do this. In that class, we had, there was 8-10 people. Michael Hayden was one of the first people there. Blake Parker was. They became 2 of the 4 members of Intersystems, along with me and Dick Zander. We had Alan Wells, who later became the drummer, of course, with Syrinx. And then Intersystems formed, like because Michael Hayden and Blake Parker were in the class. You know, I mean, when Intersystems, I mean, we just jumped in right at the beginning of the happening era, you know? And so we were really part of creating happenings. And that was like a huge, that was the beginning of conceptual art. In 1968, by that time we'd been reading about this new piece of technology that can be used for making music. Moog synthesizer, electronic music synthesizer. The reason that I chose the Moog synthesizer was specifically because Bob Moog had included a keyboard that interfaced with the electronic synthesizer components. You know, he'd been building them for a few years, like sort of various versions, and this was sort of like really, I guess, the the flagship of his like synthesizer brand, as it were. And so we got it as soon as he'd finished making it. So that was where I got into synthesizer, and so it's why I played with Kensington Market, for example, and the band out in Vancouver, and Hydroelectric Streetcar, because they were just fascinated with the fact that I could do this, right? It was interesting, when the first Syrinx album came out, the people that really picked up on the album and gave us kind of a reputation with it, if you will, were artists. And so it was filmmakers, painters, dancers. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet, they used a December Angel for years and years and years for a pas de deux. And the thing that was really an identifying feature of the recording is that kind of like loon sound, that thing, you know, that just created this like atmosphere. It didn't really come together with any conscious effort that we're going to make a band. The band is going to be a trio. We just didn't have preconceptions like that. We would just like go out sometimes at night, in the middle of the night, and like, you know, ingest something or other, and you know, just wail out in the park at 2 o'clock in the morning until you know, the neighbors would complain. We didn't know quite where we were going at that point, but we started rehearsing together, me, Doug Pringle, and Alan Wells. Before we even started making the second album, a TV company came to us and said, we're making a public affairs program called Here Come the 70s. Well, this was 1971 now, and we'd like you to record the theme song for it. We recorded it twice. First time they said, it's in a minor key, right? It's kind of down a little bit. It's nice, and it's too slow, right? So Doug, he's got this bottle of Mateus Rosé. We get into the studio at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was kind of like cheesed off, right, that we had to do it again. and so I say, look, we'll just play this thing as fast as we can, and let's drink our wine, right? And we did that. We only lasted 2 years, first of all, and the Syrinx records were only available in Canada, so it was a local phenomenon, really. It was a Canadian phenomenon, I think basically Toronto, but you know, the records were available across the country. We played in Alberta. We never did play in Vancouver. We played in Montreal, and we did a tour out east, you know, which was really successful. The management company said, okay, this is really great. Now you should do some covers. And we would like you to add a drummer to the band, playing drum kit and vocals. And it's just, oh, okay. Well, we added drums and vocals, and it was fun to do that and so forth. But somehow it was different feeling. And I think that I was getting interested in doing other kinds of music. It's possible for me to do in theater and film. Doug went on and did film music as well, and another band, and so forth. Alan went off to the West Coast and had a completely different life out in BC, and it just became something else. Coast when I just had reached the point in Toronto where I wasn't being productive, and I don't know, I felt like I kept doing the same things over and over a little bit. But anyway, I moved here. There was a woman involved that I wanted to hook up with here, so I did that. But I spent 5 years in Vancouver, and it didn't work You know, I got work, but it just felt like really hard work doing it, and I wasn't happy. I had an addiction problem. It took me a long time to get out of that, which I'd had when I left Toronto. That was probably part of the problem, no doubt about it. And I met Jean, and I came over here, not really, you know, not for, you know, anything other than the fact that she had this place. She said, well, come over sometime if you feel like just, you know, wanting to be someplace else. And I did. It was a long time that I stayed here, like a couple of years probably before we actually became a item, right? And I'm always surprised, you know, I mean, that Jean and I have been together for 20 years, you know. It's astonishing because the time has gone by so quick. And like, you know, like when I got well from, you know, by that time I was developing a new career and of people on the West Coast that I worked with. And the more I'm here, the more attached to it is. It would be very hard to get me away. And sometimes I think, well, you know, maybe I should move back to Toronto. That's where everything is happening. But every time I come back, just looking out my window here, you know, at the sun shining on the green, and in the wintertime I can see the ocean right from here. It's just obscured by the trees in my own garden right now. It's fabulous. Rosewall Creek Provincial Park. It's not much of a provincial park. It hardly gets looked after. Only people who know that it's there really come. Everything is so exotic and strange when you get going up the river. You're like, where the fuck are we, you know? There's these like unbelievable like big ferns and giant leafy plants that are, you know, bigger than a human. That's like part of my life, Rosewall. The river itself is different every time you go. It's totally dynamic. Every time there's a rainstorm, the river finds a new route to make its way to the ocean. There's nothing that gives me a true A440 here. They say this one was supposed to be giving me a true A440, and it turned out it was out by almost a quarter of a tone. I guess I'm trying to do much more now. That's what it comes down to. I'm like not satisfied anymore with just like getting like 2 sounds in the orchestration. I want to get 4, and I want to have like much more control over each one of them. When I started thinking about how am I going to, you know, start putting the arrangements together for Syrinx appearance at Moog Fest, I think the difficulty is how can I, like, get, you know, the wide range of sounds that I've been used to working with recording and in theaters where I'm permanently set up and so forth, onto the road. Having new instruments, new synthesizers, and new keyboards, and new ideas as well, you know, it's not quite as easy as I thought it would be when I started. On the other hand, like I now have like far greater capabilities, and I've also got greater sensibilities. I think my musical sense has evolved and changed over the years. Between when I was doing live performance as a soloist or with a band until about 1977. After that, I did entirely music for theater and for film, and I did that for like up until oh, maybe now, actually. So now I'm gearing up to do that again, and it's a really interesting process. I think it's exciting, and it's a challenge to me because I haven't done it for a long time, but I'm really embracing it. And we'll see what happens.